Hey everybody, it is Wednesday night and it's time for Super Geeked Up!
Super Geeked Up! Woo!
Yeah! Alright, what is up everybody? Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Jeff. I'm joined by my co-host Jordan.
Hello.
Hi. This is Super Geeked Up, your weekly live pop culture show. I said that totally wrong. Your live weekly geeky pop culture show. Yeah, I've only done it like almost 200 times. Can't get it right. Okay. We appreciate you guys watching live. If you are watching live, you can tweet us at SuperGeekedUp, #SGU. We're super excited because we have two really amazing guests with us tonight. First off, he has written such things as Kraven's Last Hunt, Justice League International, Moonshadow, Brooklyn Dreams, J.M. DeMatteis. Hello, sir.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Good evening.
Thank you.
And also, writer of Witchblade, Green Lantern, Silver Surfer, a bunch of other stuff, Ron Marz.
Welcome.
Hey guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being on. Ron has the awesome green tint, as you see there. It's very, very cool.
This is the amber room of the estate.
Oh, you have an estate. Wow, that's fancy. I do like your room a lot, though. I like all the stuff in your background. It's really awesome.
Yeah, I collect dust.
I was actually thinking that earlier. I was like trying to look at like what was in the background, like what were the figurines. It was like my shiny food looking and creepy.
All right, so we got plenty of stuff to talk to you about these guys. We got your questions. You've already sent some in before the show. Feel free to send them in for either JM or Ron. But we like to kick things off with what, Jordan?
Our Geek Tweet of the Week, and this week's Geek Tweet of the Week is, if you could write a story for any comic book character, who would you choose? How about JM? Let's start with you.
So, any comment? Well,
For you guys, though, I want to hear the ones you
yeah.
haven't already written.
yeah, right. That's what I was going to say, because between the two of us, we have probably written every single character in existence. What comes to mind, since I know Kevin McGuire is watching this, I always thought that Giffen McGuire and I would do a great Fantastic Four. So I think that's what I would pick. And I've written the characters individually here and there, but I never got to do it as a series. So I think the three of us would do a great Fantastic Four series.
Nice. That's really cool.
Yeah.
How about you, Ron?
Wow, I just want to read their Fantastic Fours, is what it comes down to right now. Yeah, I mean, like JM said, I think most of the time when we get these kind of questions, we've played with most of the toys in one way or another, either crossovers or miniseries or whatever. So the answer that I always come back to, even though it's a character that I've written at least briefly, is I really want to do a long monthly run on a Tarzan book, because I grew up loving Tarzan as a kid, and Tarzan's got such a great comics pedigree. If you can follow in the footsteps of Hal Foster and Joe Kubert and John Buscema, that's something to aspire to. So that's my sort of little off to the side, out of the way answer for that one.
Well, you love all things Edgar Rice Burroughs, though, right, Ron? You're a big Burroughs fan in general, correct?
Yeah, I grew up with Burroughs, and actually I do a couple of Sunday-style strips for the Edgar Rice Burroughs Inc. Like official website. So for me, it's kind of like being able to reach back and touch my childhood. I do a Korak strip with Rick Leonardi, and we're adapting The Mucker, which is one of his contemporary novels, or one of Burroughs' contemporary novels at the time, a real kind of pulp pot boiler. So I adapt The Mucker with Lean Motor, and we just do it for the love of it.
Nice.
I love that answer. I loved Tarzan. Like, I grew up being obsessed with like the old Tarzan movies, and I actually just recently saw the new Tarzan movie twice because I was absolutely obsessed with it.
I was going to ask about that. Ron, have you seen it?
Yeah, I went out the first weekend and made sure my money went into the till for the new Tarzan movie, and I loved it. I thought it was terrific.
Did you like it, Jordan? Well, you saw it twice, right?
I loved it. I saw it twice. Yeah, I saw it last Wednesday, and I saw it again on Sunday. I thought it was a great film, and I love Margot Robbie, and I really love Alex Skarsgård, so I like the cast that they had for it as well.
Yeah, it's a great cast. Cool. That's good. Okay.
How about you, Jeff?
My answer to this question, you mean?
Yes.
I have always wanted. So she started off as a video game character, but she's have plenty of comics done about her too. I've always wanted to write a Lara Croft story.
I
think that'd
knew
be
it.
awesome. Yeah.
I knew it.
That,
I
that,
really
or
did.
that or Huntress, because Huntress is one of my all-time favorite characters as well. Let's go to here. Let's go to Twitter here for a second, because we got plenty of answers from people. We tweeted this out. Actually, at the Deepu just tweeted in as we're live here. He said surprisingly not Batman, because he loves Batman. He said he would want to do a Nightwing. Let's see here. Matt Barrios on Twitter says the character of Maps from Gotham Academy, who I actually didn't know who that was. I had to look her up. Thank you for that answer.
Yeah.
R.B. Lemoyne says Rip Hunter. I love time travel, and the DCU and Rip's adventures are fascinating. I'm totally down with time travel, so that's great. Lizzie_Silva says I'd want Darkwing Duck, Sonic the Hedgehog to meet and go on a mission together. I'm just trying to process that in my mind, but I was a big Darkwing Duck fan. That would be crazy. That's awesome. Kelly Lee 1974 on Twitter says Superman, an alternate universe storyline. What about you, Jordan? Or I guess maybe should I ask you more about who you want to play? Maybe is that better question that you're an actress? If you could play anybody?
No, actually, I do have an answer for this question, and I would right now currently want to write Captain America because I really don't want him to be a Hydra agent. So if I could go in there and just kind of take him away from there, that's what I would do currently.
We've talked about that on the show earlier. Yeah.
Yes, we
other
did.
weeks. Also on Twitter, at that Mikey chick says Nubia of Themyscira. Paul Renshaw says Doctor Strange or Victor Von Doom. Cool. Good choices, guys. Oh, and just before the show started, I'm sorry, Maria Duran said Crypto, and Alex Martin said Tom Judge. Thank you, guys, for sending all those in. Appreciate it. All right, and you keep tweeting us at Super Geeked Up, #SGU. All right, so we got plenty of stuff we're going to talk about today, mostly to Ron and JM. We're going to talk about some writing. We're going to get some of your questions. We got to do a little game segment later called 3-Second Movies. We're going to talk a little San Diego Comic-Con, plenty of stuff. All right, so guys, let's get right into it with you guys. And we're going to talk about their projects and what they have coming up as well, so you can find out all about that. So let me ask you this first. We actually got, I already was going to ask you this, but we got a similar question from Eros Orocho, one of our big followers on Twitter. Basically, he wanted to know, like, as an aspiring comic book writer, or let's say, people maybe who are trying to do their first comic book. He wanted to know about any advice you would have for someone doing that.
I think it's a different world than it was when I broke in. When I broke in, there was a structure set up where you could actually break in. At DC, they had all these anthology comics, where I used to call it the vaudeville of comics, where you would go to learn your craft and do 5-page stories, 8-page stories, and work with an editor and really learn the craft of putting a comic book story together. And then you sort of graduate to longer stories and then get your first full-length story. And that kind of thing doesn't exist anymore. And in fact, the field now is filled with comic book writers and people that are coming in from TV and novelists and Pulitzer Prize winners and all this crazy stuff, So it's harder on one level if your goal is to jump in and work for Marvel or DC. But if you just want to make a comic book, it's easier than ever, I think, because of digital. You can create whatever you want and get it out there through Comixology or on your own website or however. It's that line between audience and creator is thinner than it's ever been on that level. So if your dream is to write Spider-Man these days, it seems like the way to do it is to go off and create your own thing and have a body of work that they will then notice.
Ron?
Yeah, I mean that's really the sum. James, exactly right. It's easier than ever to do your own comics. It's harder than ever to ascend to what people think of as the pinnacle of comics, which is writing characters that are owned by entertainment corporations that were created by people like us 60 or 70 years ago. So I think step one has to come before step two. Obviously, if you're a writer, go find an artist that's willing to work with you, and you figure it out. You figure out the process. You figure out how you work together, and you finish it. And then you do the next one, and you finish that, and you put it in front of people. It's certainly when I broke in, and I broke in at Marvel, which doesn't happen anymore. That's a pipe dream that just doesn't exist anymore. I was sort of allowed to learn my job while I was doing my job. Now that's not the case. Now you have to sort of show up on the doorstep of Marvel or DC, or actually be called to the doorstep of Marvel and DC because you've cut your teeth somewhere else and you've proven yourself somewhere else, and then maybe they'll take a look at you and you know, give you a couple of issues to try out on.
Yeah, there's no real training ground anymore. When I started, there was a training ground. I worked with guys like Paul Levitz and Jack Harris and Len Wein, and they taught me, you know, and I learned so much working with those guys. That doesn't really exist anymore. There aren't people out there that will train you. It's one of the reasons why I do these writing workshops, because guys like us, we've been doing this so long, you know, you wake up in the morning and you realize, I know a lot about this stuff, and I would really like to share it and help people that are just coming in the door to figure this out, because there's other, you know, it's not simple. You know, to the outside eye, writing comics looks like it must be some simple thing, and it really is not, and there's a lot to learn along the way. And the other thing I'd say is, you know, a lot of people say they want to write, and then they never do anything. They just talk about wanting to write. The main thing you have to do is get off your ass and write something.
All right.
Yeah, when people say, I have an idea, you know, you sit at a convention or a signing or something like that, and people come up and say, I have an idea for a comic. Well, yeah, I got about 300 of them.
Right.
The difference is you got to sit down and do it. Ideas are a dime a dozen. Execution is what matters.
Yeah.
And to, you know, one of the things that occurred to me is that it's funny that a lot of the, you know, a lot of editors that I talk to express frustration because they end up dealing with new writers who haven't learned the craft yet. So they're getting scripts that aren't fully formed. They're getting ideas that aren't executed to actually become a comic because there isn't that training ground anymore. You have to go make your own way, and even a place like Image, which is the #3 publisher and moves a lot of books, doesn't really have an editorial structure that's set up to teach people how to do this job. You sort of have to learn what you're doing by yourself, teach yourself, and if you learn bad habits, or you just don't, the connections aren't quite made, and you're not really doing the job properly. Especially in terms of how a script is put together, because ultimately, about 5 people in the world that read a comic script. It's the writer, the artist, the colorist, the letterer, and the editor. Nobody else actually reads the script. They read the finished comic, and you can cover up a lot of flaws in the finish, you know, that exist in the script by the time you get to the finished comic. So if you learn bad habits in the beginning when you're trying to learn this stuff, a lot of times you keep them all the way through until somebody finally says, "Hey, you can't do that. You can't have characters doing 2 or 3 different actions in a panel. You can't have, you know, 2 vast space armadas clashing in panel 1 of an 8-panel page." There's just nuts and bolts of what we as writers do for scripts that I think are becoming lost in translation, because, as JM said, the skill of writing a comic, it's harder than the screenplay, it's harder than a novel. I think it's probably harder than any other form of writing, except maybe, you know, iambic pentameter. But there's a lot that goes into what we do that hopefully the audience never sees, because it's seamless by the time it gets into the book.
Cool. I've got one thing to follow up on that based on what you guys said, but to share a couple of tweets. Charles Churchio says, just joining in and getting to watch my new TV on a 50-inch HD. So, wow, our faces are like super huge on his.
That's a horrifying thought.
And then At the Deepu says, I'd like to see JM and Giffen write Powerpuff Girls 3000.
Okay, we'll take that under consideration.
Okay.
So, you know, the truth is, I have to say, I always say this when I work with Keith. The joke is, you know, if they called us up and said, "You guys want to do Millie the Model?" I'd say, "Sure, why not?" Because the fun is in the collaboration, and we could apply that collaboration to virtually anything. So we probably could do Powerpuff Girls 3000 and have a good time doing it. I mean, we never thought we would end up doing Scooby Apocalypse in a million years. I mean, here we are writing Scooby-Doo and having a great time. So
that's cool.
Powerpuff Girls isn't that big a leap.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, you never know.
I'd be down to
Maria,
read it.
Maria Duran tweets in, happy to be able to attend live tonight. Woohoo! Thank you, Maria. That's awesome that you can watch live. So, guys, you talked about not really having a training ground anymore. So, what do you think about though? A couple companies have done it recently. DC is in the midst of theirs right now. They did both an artist and a writers call for, and actually, I actually submitted to the writers one, and they're selecting some people, and they're going to put them through a workshop actually to learn the craft. So that kind of seems like it's going back maybe a little bit to what you guys were talking about.
Well, if that's what they're doing, I don't know the behind-the-scenes details, but if that's what they're doing, it's great. I mean, it's really, really needed. You know, years and years ago, when I was a teenager, DC did something similar, and they were taking submissions from a certain group of people that allowed in through the magic doors. I wasn't one of them, but the real benefit of that for me was that somebody behind a desk at DC actually took the time to read and critique my work and send me feedback, which at 19 years old was like, I was probably 18 or 19. An incredible thing. So if that's what they're doing, I think that's great, and you know, you hope that they have the right people doing it, because teaching is just as difficult as learning. You have to have the right people doing it.
Yeah, I think it's great that the program exists, and you know, not everybody will get into the program. Not everybody that gets into the program will succeed and go on to a career, but it's a seed. And you have to plant those seeds to see what eventually comes up. And I think it's going to be a way for people to hone their craft a bit before they step on stage. Right now, the way the business is set up is that you learn to do the job while everybody's watching, and a lot of, you know, we all have a lot of really lousy writing in us, and you know, in my case, I was being paid for it right out of the gate. So I think it's better that you sort of learn to do the job while you don't have everybody looking over your shoulder, because you know, the world of feedback can be pretty cruel and pretty jarring for a new writer.
Mm-hmm.
I got over that long ago, but I know a lot of people are really engaged by and invested in the feedback that they get from the audience. And man, if you're Captain America as an agent of Hydra, notwithstanding, you know, if you put something out there that inflames people one way or the other, you know, you sort of have to be armored up and be ready for it.
And now in the age of the internet, forget it. You know, once upon a time, so people wrote letters to the comics. You might have gotten a few insulting letters, you know, and that was the end of it. Now it's like 24 hours a day, everywhere you look, if you want to look for it, you know. But you know, the other thing you're talking about feedback. Also, there are people that you really need a hard head to do this. Any kind of to be in the arts in any way, because no matter how successful you are, 50% of your life is going to be involved with rejection. It's just the nature of the beast, you know. And a lot of people really can't handle rejection and can't handle criticism. I've had people come to me and say, would you look at my work and would you give me some feedback? And then you give them feedback and they spend a lot of time telling you why your feedback is wrong and why their work is just fine the way it is, because they can't handle it. You know, the people that I've seen that were able to accept that and embrace that and grow, those are the people that succeed.
Sure, it's not really feedback that a lot of people are looking for. They're just looking for positive reinforcement.
Right.
Like validation.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And I usually tell people that's what your mom and dad are there for. If you want positive validation, go to mom and dad. If you want criticism, you know, talk to a professional and they'll tell you what's wrong, and we'll spend most of the time on what's wrong because you don't need to talk about stuff that's right.
Gotcha. Good points.
Like a constructive place, and some people just can't handle that. You know,
sure,
it's not always fun. You know, I always say, you know, you run into these brick walls, and whether metaphorically or literally, I was, you crawl into your desk, you cry, you curse the gods for a while, and then you get up and you start writing again, because creativity is the best revenge. That's my line, and that's our weapon. We can always create something new, and hopefully, from every rejection along the way, we learn something.
It's a great point.
All right. On Twitter, hey JM, we got more great suggestions for you. Mark_Belkin says, tell JM Ambush Bug needs to be in Scooby Apocalypse. Show is great, by the way. Thanks. If you're talking about this show, thank you. Great. I appreciate it. I will take that positive reinforcement.
I don't know if the DC universe and the Hanna-Barbera DC universe can cross over at this point in time, but if they do, I'm sure Keith would be happy to put Ambush Bug in there.
A question we got earlier from James Shee. This is a good one. He says, both of you guys have been around long enough to see comics and fandom change. What do you think the biggest change is, I guess, in the comic industry? And he also asks about the difference between con and internet fandom. Comic-Con, I believe he means, versus internet fandom. But first off, what's, I guess, the biggest change maybe you've seen in the comic industry? Ron?
Just the widespread acceptance. I mean, the fact that we don't have one comic book movie to look forward to a year. We have a dozen of them, and it's just. I mean, when I broke into the business, if you had told me that we'd have 2 or 3 or 4 Marvel movies a year, and they'd be good. That's a mind-boggling thing to me. I mean, I grew up when Marvel, Marvel in the movies meant Nicholas Hammond as Spider-Man and Lou Ferrigno as the Hulk.
And we were happy to get it.
And Reb Brown as Captain America. I always feel like what's happened is the technology of filmmaking has caught up with what we could always do in comics. The technology of putting the stuff up on the screen has finally caught up with what Stan and Jack were doing 50 years ago.
And an interesting offshoot of that is the fact that, and this is what I see at conventions, is that I think there's a whole huge body of people now who love these characters, who love these universes, and never pick up a comic book. That's the downside to that. They're huge fans of the characters, and they want to show up in their costumes and have a great time, which is all well and good, but they're not necessarily comic book readers. So that's an interesting downside to the whole thing as well. The characters have never been more popular, whereas comics, the popularity just kind of goes the way it always seems to go. We, that the Avengers does not sell 2 million copies a month, really, when you think about the success of those films, is extraordinary, But it's not the way it is, and that's also the way the media landscape is too, because everything is so fragmented.
Do you guys have a favorite comic book movie?
My answer to that is usually Road to Perdition, because I think it's just a really great movie.
It is. I always forget that's based on a.
What was it?
Road to Perdition. Tom Hanks. It's really good. Really good.
I couldn't hear it first. I was like, wait.
But I think if you mean superhero comic book movie, I think I'm still partial to the first 2/3 of the first Captain America movie, which I think are just,
that was very specific.
Terrific. Well, I think the movie, as a lot of superhero movies do, kind of falls apart in the third act, because it's
third act is always the problem. Always.
Kind of like, I guess we're running out of time. We should go have a big fight now, even if the fight isn't earned. But I think the first 2/3 or 75% of Captain America is so genuine and heartfelt that to me that's the best superhero stuff that's been committed to film.
And it has an innocence and a joy to it also. Yeah, I went into that movie very reluctantly, because I thought, how the hell are they going to do Captain America in World War II and not make it seem stupid? It was actually my wife that dragged me. She said, I think it's going to be fun. And I walked out of that movie with a grin on my face. I thought it was just wonderful, wonderful. But if I had to pick one, I'm still inordinately fond of the very first Christopher Reeve Superman movie.
Yes, thank you.
Warts and all, it's so magical, and it still holds up after all these years. And that, to me, is Superman.
Hell yeah, that's great.
I agree.
Jordan, actually, I don't think I actually know. What is your favorite superhero movie?
My favorite superhero movie? I'm really not necessarily sure that I have one. I enjoy superhero movies a lot. I actually probably would have said the first Captain America, to be honest. I actually.
All right, so you're with Ron. There you go.
I really love that film because it's it kind of has that almost like that first Spider-Man movie with
Tobey Maguire.
yeah, that feel to it where it's like this underdog on the rise, as like a lot of other superhero movies. They're just kind of like, there's Iron Man, there's just like, he's just like this awesome guy that just kind of comes into it, and there's Batman, and I like kind of the underdog story where this unsuspecting person becomes just this unbelievable character, and I think people more relate to stories like that, I feel like, and I loved it.
Absolutely.
Which is why I think I'm taking it so hard that he's now a Hydra agent.
It's all right. It'll be whatever.
Don't worry about that.
They'll fix it.
It amazes me. It really amazes me how when these things happen, how people freak out as if this is really going to be the status quo forever. Well,
I think a lot of it.
Yeah.
A lot of it is back to what you said about dealing with people who are much more familiar with the movies than they are the comics. Because I think anybody that's been reading comics longer than 10 minutes saw the story. Hey, Cap's a Hydra agent, and what just happened in today's books? Bruce Banner's dead or something like that. It's comics. It's going to change next month. This is so. I think everybody that's like a hardcore comics fan just goes, yeah, okay. Well, that was the cliffhanger this month. I'll come back next month and see what else happens.
Well, it's like back in the 80s when I killed Superman, and people were lining up outside comic shops who didn't buy comics because they really believed that was the end of Superman comics and he would never come back again. As if Time Warner would kill Superman and stop publishing Superman. It's insane. The fun of it is, okay, Captain America's a Hydra agent. How is this story going to play out? How are they? What are they going to do with it? How's it going to end up? The fun is in the journey. Going in, he's going to be Captain America again when it's all said and done. How did you get there, and what's the journey? What did you say? I'm sorry.
No, she was just saying that's true.
Yeah.
It's true. It is true. I'm just ready for it.
Let's see. On Twitter, Maria Duran says, yes, there's only one Superman to me, Christopher Reeve. There you go. Agrees with you, JM. And so does Tammy Anderson. The first Superman movie was her favorite. Cool. Yeah, feel free to tweet in, folks, what your favorite superhero or comic book-based movie is. At Super Geeked Up, hashtag SGU. Mine's Days of Future Past, if you're wondering. Okay. Let's see here. Oh, I have a question for you guys. So this is based off actually something personally. My first comic I did, it was just on my own, and I just found an artist, and I chose who I wanted, right? But I'm actually in this anthology, writing for anthology through a company called Darby Pop, and they paired me with an artist, right? So I had no say in it, and it's awesome, actually. He's really great. He's super cool to work with. But I'm interested, since I haven't actually worked for, obviously, many companies like that. Is that how it usually works, or at least when you first get started with them? Do they just like pair up writers and artists? Do the companies decide that? Do you guys have say in that? Like, how does that usually work?
It depends, but on the monthly books, you have to realize that the monthly books are like, it's like a factory, it's like a machine, and those books have to get out. And I may have an artist that I love to work with, and chances are, if I do, I'm going to end up working with him on or her on a creator-owned project. Usually, if you get on Batman or Superman or Spider-Man or whatever, the editorial side, they're the guys that are going to put you together. They may say, hey, we have these two artists here. Which one would you prefer to work with? But the part of the gig is, and they show you samples and say, hey, what do you think about this guy? But in the end, it's their decision. They're hiring the writer, they're hiring the artist, and then you have to get to know each other, and you hope to God that there's some chemistry there when they put you together. It doesn't always happen.
Yeah, I think it's a case-by-case basis. I mean, I've certainly gotten into a lot of gigs, and usually the writer is hired first. That's not always true, but a lot of times the writer's brought on first, and and editors have a lot of stuff to do. They have a lot of balls to juggle. So if you can bring somebody to the table and say, hey, how about this guy? I know he's looking for work, or I wanted to work with this woman because she's breaking in and I think she's terrific. A lot of times you can influence the decision by saying I think this person's the right one for the gig. it doesn't always work out that way, but I think this is a business where you can end up working with your friends quite a bit, and the people that you end up working with do become your friends quite a bit. It's I guess, like really any business, it's a very social one, and people suggest each other, people people want to work with each other, and that's to great extent how stuff gets done. I usually tell people it's not always who you know in this business, but a lot of times it's who you've met and who you've got a relationship with, whether that's an editor or an artist or another writer. People work with their friends, people work with people that they know, and certainly editors want to work with people who have a reputation for not being a pain in the ass. Because ultimately, if a book goes off the rails, sure, it's most of the time the fault of the creative team, but it's not the creative team getting yelled at in the editorial meeting every week. It's the editor who suffers the slings and arrows. So there's also a factor of they want to work with people they can trust, because it's their ass on the line.
And another interesting thing is that sometimes you end up working with an artist that maybe you've seen their work, you've seen it in print, and you're like, God, I really don't like their work. And then you work with them. It's very different collaborating and creating together than looking at something on the page. And the artist that you thought, objectively, wasn't that good, when you're working with them and suddenly you see the way that they tell a story, when you see the passion that they're putting into their work, it shifts. I've worked with artists that I did not like their work until I worked with them. You know what I mean? And other people, you may look at it and go, that's really great looking stuff, and then you work with them and you see all the things behind the scenes that aren't working. So when you're on the creative side, the perspective can really shift dramatically.
I bet. Cool. On Twitter, we just got a tweet in from DC in the 80s. Ron Marz, one of our contributors, wants to know if your Thor run was a prototype for your Emerald Twilight work.
No, it wasn't. The Emerald Twilight stuff was initially the guts of that story came from DC editorial. I mean, they had a direction in mind and a story they wanted executed in the 3 issues of Emerald Twilight. So the Thor stuff was really certainly my year on Thor was not my finest moment in the business. The year that I spent on Thor was not what I wanted it to be, and really was a book and a book that I really wanted to write, a character that you want, and it doesn't work out like you wanted it to. But the storyline in Thor was not in any way a precursor. It was just a story that Jim Starlin and I came up with, and frankly, mostly Jim. He really wanted to explore what Thor's psyche was like after Odin had been kind of screwing around with him for decades, and trying to teach his wayward son lessons all the time, and Thor finally cracked under it. But the 2 storylines weren't related, though I can see in retrospect how people might get that impression.
Okay. By the way, DC in the 80s, I want to give a shout out to them because I actually just met them on the way back from Montreal Comic-Con. They have actually a really cool interview with JM actually up on their site right now. So if you go to facebook.com/DC Comics in the 80s, you can read that. Keep watching this first, though. Then go read it. Okay. So, by the way, folks, if you're watching, I want to give a quick shout out to everybody at Montreal Comic-Con. I was just there over the weekend. We did a Super Geeked Up live show. It was awesome. We had a great turnout. Thank you guys so much. You're an awesome audience, great volunteers. And thank you to Cliff and everybody at Montreal. It's a really awesome con. They do a really great job running it. All right. Let's see. So let's talk a little geeky news, then we'll get back to you guys, talk about what you're up to, all that good stuff. All right. So speaking of Comic-Cons, San Diego Comic-Con is next week. And so I will be there actually doing 3 panels this year. Super excited that we're actually doing Super Geeked Up Live for the very first time as part of the official programming at Comic-Con. So if you're going, we would love it if you would swing by and be part of the show. It's Friday, 9 p.m. in room 29AB. If you go to our website, supergeekedup.com, the events page, you can get actually all that information. It's all up there right now. I'm doing a Dungeons & Dragons panel. I'm also doing a web series panel. So plenty of cool stuff that we're doing. I want to hear, if you're going there or not, on Twitter, let me know maybe what some of the things, most anticipated things you would want to see or you're hoping to see if you're going. Because they released their schedule over the weekend, the full programming schedule. I'm going to say right now, the Saturday schedule for Hall H, and if you don't know, folks, if you've never been, Hall H is the huge, massive 6,500-seat hall that they have at Comic-Con where they put all like the huge stuff. That day alone is like, everything is amazing. It's the Warner Brothers panel where you're going to get like Wonder Woman, Suicide Squad, all their stuff. It's Star Trek's 50th anniversary. They're doing an Alien 30th anniversary. Marvel's doing their thing. Kevin Smith does his thing every night there. So that's just amazing. But besides that, folks, by the way, there's tons of, outside of just the big studios, there's tons of like more independent stuff, as well that you can find, and plenty of comic book stuff as well. Have you guys, Jam and Ron, have you been in the past? I think Jam, you said you have, right? But it's been a while.
Yeah, but I haven't been in 11 years probably, and it was overcrowded then, so I can only imagine what it's like.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah. Ron, have you ever been?
Yeah, probably 20 out of the last 25 years.
Oh, wow. All right, so you go a lot.
1 or 22 out of the last 25 years. Yeah, so now I'm sort of on the every other year plan, because I don't know that any human can take every year in the belly of that beast. And this is the on year, so I will be out there with Ominous Press this year, and I am girding my loins for it, because it's not for the faint of heart.
It is still, dude. It's still my favorite time of the year, and this will be my 4th straight year, and I have no plan to stop. So I'll see how long I can make it. How many years in a row?
Well, it's an interesting. I mean, when I first started, my first show was probably 91 or 92, and I've never been to any convention as an attendee. I've always been as a guest, and to see the growth in not only the convention itself, but the convention center, the whole downtown district there, the baseball stadium. When I was first there, it was the convention center and a couple of hotels, and the other side of the railroad tracks was really the other side of the railroad tracks, and you didn't go too far up that street because it was, it's a Navy town, so it was strip joints and tattoo parlors and liquor stores.
Really? Wow.
And not, not someplace you wanted to be after dark. It's obviously such a vastly different experience now. It's really a stunning turnaround that I think in large part is fueled by what the convention has turned into.
Yeah, they really take over the entire like downtown area now, and it's actually super. The Gaslamp district is super nice, so that's interesting to hear. I wasn't back then. Obviously, how much has changed that area.
So there were places you didn't want to be, and things you could get that you didn't necessarily need.
So Jordan, it sounds like you're kind of place.
Literally, I'm thinking about this, and I'm like,
Like, let me go back in time to 91.
I'd been hanging out there after dark. I'd been like, where are we going? Let's go.
Cool. That's great that you're going to be there, Ron. This year. Maria Duran on Twitter tweets in, cannot wait to see Super Geeked Up live at San Diego. Yeah, she's going to come. She said she's going to come to our event. So thank you, Maria. That's awesome.
Oh, that is so awesome.
Yeah. Actually, that's actually the coolest thing, by the way, that some of the people, we only see online are actually going to come up, and we'll get to meet them in person. So that's super cool. Speaking of Maria, I almost forgot. Let me work this in. This episode of Super Geeked Up is supported by our super geeky Patreon, Maria Duran and Team KLI. They provide real-time marketing and relationship building that gets results. For more about how they can promote you, your business, or your show, visit teamkli.com. Thank you so much, Maria. Really appreciate your support. Thank you to all the Patreons out there who support us every month. All right. Let's see here. Last bit of news before we continue is something I'm excited about. Speaking of comics, there's going to be a new Jessica Jones comic done by Brian Michael Bendis, who originated the character The original Alias series is actually the first thing I ever read by Bendis, and why he became one of my favorite comic book writers. So I'm super excited that he's bringing her back in a regular. I guess this is the first time she's had her own book in, I don't know, years or something. So that's cool. I'm sure helped by the Netflix series Jessica Jones, of course. So I'm excited about that. All right, let's see here. So you know what? Let's do a real quick version of our game segment, and then we're going to talk. We want to get all about your projects, guys, and what you got going on. Okay? I'll make sure we have time for that. So this is called 3-Second Movies. Shout out to Nick Montgomery at Merc_Media. He actually came up with this game, and he kindly let us use it. So we are in teams of 2 here. It's JM and me on one team, Jordan and Ron on the other team. Jordan sent our team list of movies. I sent their team list of movies, so we had not seen them before this, and we don't know what they are on our own team. So, for example, I'm going to have 3 seconds to describe a movie to JM. He's going to have to try to guess what that is, but I cannot go beyond 3 seconds in my description. Vice versa for him, and Jordan and Ron will do the same kind of deal. Hey, Jordan, you got a watch or something, or is a phone something to time with? Timing device?
Yeah. I got you. How long do you want for it? Wait, how long do you want for it?
Well, hence the name, 3 seconds.
Well, yeah, but like you just want like 3 seconds for
Oh,
each
yeah,
one.
I'm sorry.
I thought maybe we're just doing like a total.
I got what you're saying. Let's just do one at a time.
Okay, so like, do you want like
a
minute
you just
for like all of them?
No. We're just gonna do one at a time. So just do 3 seconds every time. We're just gonna do one and stop, and then we're gonna go to the other person. Okay.
That's okay.
Yeah, so real easy. I guess we'll start. Jam, do you wanna go first? You want me to go first?
I'll pick one and go first. Sure.
All right. Yeah, he's a brave guy. Good. I appreciate that. If you're watching on Twitter, you can tweet in your answers what you think it might be too at @SuperGeekedUp #SGU. All right. So Jordan, basically, as soon as he starts giving it, just start the clock for 3 seconds. Okay. As soon as he starts talking, and then just say time if 3 seconds goes up.
Got you.
Okay. So Jam, whenever you're ready, go for it.
Okay. Cartoon marries human woman.
Done.
Okay. Wait. Cartoon
marries. Oh, wait. You know what? Back that up. She wasn't a human. I'm going to do that all over again.
Okay. Let's retcon that, and we'll do it again.
She wasn't human. Never mind. Okay. Here's an easy one.
Time it again.
Do it in 2 seconds. Kevin Bacon dances.
Oh, Footloose.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, nice. All right, that was easy. Let's go over the other team. Ron, pick one from your.
So do we get points for? Do we get points for you guys not knowing what Roger Rabbit was?
Well, no, hang on. First off, I was going to guess Roger Rabbit, but he said stop, and he was going to do another one.
In my mind, Jessica Rabbit suddenly I had her as a human being in my head. Then I remember.
That's actually what I was going to guess.
In my mind, Jessica Rabbit is a human being. So.
She's
yes, I've heard about the two of you.
In fact,
Jordan, we were just talking about Jordan cosplaying Jessica Rabbit yesterday.
I do.
All right, so Ron, so you're going to give one to Jordan from the list. I will time 3 seconds.
All right.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready, just go for it.
Crappy teen book trilogy turned into 4 crappy movies.
I didn't hear any of that.
Okay, wait.
I know the answer.
Wait. Say it again.
Crappy teen book trilogy turned into 4 crappy movies.
Twilight?
No.
That's what. See,
no?
That's funny. I actually thought you were doing Twilight, and I'm like, wait, Twilight wasn't on the list.
It must be Hunger Games, right?
Yeah. Oh, he got it.
Oh.
It's Hunger Games.
I thought it was Twilight.
No,
I'm
wait.
like,
Twilight is very. It's very easy to think it was Twilight, though. Except I guess that was 4 books, right?
Oh yeah, it was. I don't know.
If it had been Twilight, I would have said really crappy trilogy.
Okay. Oh. All right.
Not that he has any opinions about this at all.
No, he's obviously a big fan of these. He's going to be doing the comic adaptations. All right. Okay, let's see here. All right, so now that was good about JM. You got it. You kind of did a steal there. All right, so I'm going to give one now to you, JM. All right, so you're going to have to guess. Okay, you ready to time, Jordan?
I am so ready for this.
Kate Beckinsale plays sexy vampire, fights werewolves.
Done.
What was it called? Underworld? Was that what it was?
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
Nice job. All right, hey, we're 2 for 2.
Do I get a
you were hating on my
refrigerator or a new car or something for this?
Did you say a refrigerator? Sure, I'll give you a refrigerator. I'll get one off the street. It's like,
a basket of fruit, something.
yeah. All right, let's do one more, Lee. So Jordan, you're gonna now give one, and Ron will have to guess.
All right. Are you ready?
Ready.
A god with a hammer.
4.
Shit, I made that. That was way too easy. I shouldn't even give you that one. Jeez.
I didn't say.
No, I know. I did it. I gave you that one. It's way too easy. Hey, Tammy Anderson, by the way, she had gotten the Roger Rabbit. She had guessed it correctly. So there you go. So your clue was fine, Jam. And Charles Churchill on Twitter got Hunger Games, Ron, so he knew what you were talking about. Twitter, they're always very good about this. Okay, cool.
Well, I guess Jessica Rabbit was human within the context of the movie, even though she was a cartoon. She wasn't
true.
She wasn't anthropomorphic. She was drawn as a woman. So
right.
Yeah.
You're fully justified.
She was human compared to her husband, who was a rabbit, which is disconcerting to think about.
Yes, very disconcerting.
I don't know. Does that even get made in 2016? That sort of horrific interspecies romance.
I think the Republicans would be against it. I think.
All right, good job. Well, so hey, guess what? JM and my team, we won because we had 2 and you guys had 1. So.
Yeah, but it wasn't like you gave us all that many questions.
Well, I know, but we're on a time limit today, unfortunately. All right, so we got to move it along. Otherwise, we'd have more. Right. You're just a sore loser. Look, all he got was a crappy refrigerator. It's not like you're going to get a great prize, okay?
I think that Twilight should have given us half a point.
Fine. You still lost.
It's true. That's 2 more lives ruined by the Hunger Games.
It was a closer loss.
Wow, you really do not like Hunger Games. All right.
I've never seen it.
I've
never seen it. I read the book.
I couldn't get very far in the books, and the movies aren't anything special, I don't think. so I'm actually not disagreeing with you, Ron. Okay, so well, you and Ron can watch it together, and it would be a great experience because he'll tell you everything that's bad about it.
All right, sounds good. I'll bring the Chinese food.
Well,
they can watch it live on this show next week. There you go. That'll be your whole show. You run the movie and you have them commenting.
Right. It's like Mystery Science Theater 3000.
That's right.
Oh, I used to love that.
That was fun. Okay, here let's all right. Let's go back to these guys. I want to talk about what they're working on or what they have coming up. Ron, let's start with you. So you're editor-in-chief, right, of this a new company called Ominous Press, which I was looking up online. And so it looked like from online, you guys are just launching some books right now. Is that right, or?
Yeah, our first our preview issue came out at Heroes Con in North Carolina last month, and we'll have something new for San Diego next week. So it's just in the beginning stages, and it's a company that existed before. It existed in the '90s, and now we're bringing it back, and we'll be doing three different titles with it. The first of which will be called Giant Killers and will be out next year, late this year, and then the others will follow early next year. And my partners in crime on that are Bart Sears, who is writing and drawing Giant Killers. I'm writing a book called Prometheus with Tom Randy on art, and I'm writing a book called Demigod with Andy Smith on art. And our publisher is a buddy of ours who was involved in it 20 years ago, named Sean Husbar, and he went on to become successful in other businesses, and finally decided to get his geek back on and come play in our Sandlot again. Nice,
getting your geek back on rocks. And you're still doing Skylanders for IDW, right?
Yep, Skylanders. Strangely, when a show gets picked up when a video game franchise gets picked up for 2 seasons of an animated show on I'm not sure if it's Amazon or Netflix. I think it's Amazon. More comics follow, and I'm actually having a ball doing it. It's a really interesting video. It's one of those. It was the first Toys to Life video game franchise, and I actually worked on some of the games. So now we're now we're doing comics with it, and it's a ball. It's actually kind of cool to be working on something that you can hand to a 6-year-old kid or a 16-year-old, and they both get something out of it.
Nice.
Nice.
All right, so JM, plenty of stuff you're doing. Of course, you're currently doing Scooby Apocalypse.
Right, with Keith Giffen and Howard Porter at DC. I've got the first issue of The Adventures of Augusta Wynn, the last story, which is a sequel to a series I did for IDW a couple of years ago. That comes out in August. I'm doing a new series for Black Mass called Run for the Shadows. That won't be out till next year. Got another new series for IDW coming out next year that I can't even talk about. And let's see. One other thing at IDW, they're reprinting an old Vertigo series of mine called, what's it called? The Last One, which is a series I did with Dan Sweetman that I really love, and I'm really happy that it's back in print. A lot of other stuff, and I'm still doing animation. Been writing for the Scooby-Doo show on Cartoon Network. Had a Batman movie, Batman Bad Blood, that came out a few months ago, so just keep me busy. And I have to mention this weekend in Kingston, New York, if you're anywhere near Kingston, my writing workshop, Imagination 101. It's a 3-day workshop. And if you're interested, we still have room, and you can go to my website, jmdmatthias.com, and go to the workshop section, and you'll get all the information you need.
Oh, wow. Kingston isn't far from here.
No, it's not.
It's just an hour from Albany, guys.
Yeah.
I hear Kingston is a lovely town.
So they tell me. It's a hip town now. You know that, Ron?
With many famous sons.
On Twitter, by the way, Paul at Secret Moss says, great guest tonight. There you go. I agree, Paul. Thank you for watching. Let's see here. So you gave your website. Very good. Ron, your website is just ronmarz.com, right?
Yep.
Great. And facebook.com/ominouspress is where they can find that, right? Or ominouspress.com?
Yeah. Ominouspress.com. Ominous is on Facebook. Ominous is on Twitter. You can't do anything without social media. So we're all over the place.
That's very true. All right, awesome, very cool. So let's see here. Hey Jordan, you're doing something special next week, right? So this show, by the way, folks, we're probably the first. I think it's actually the first time ever in our history we're taking a week off. And that's a long time because we're almost at 200 episodes. So because San Diego Comic-Con, we won't be doing our show. But Jordan's going to do something instead.
Yes, so sadly I will not be in San Diego, which I do regret. However...
Yeah. They banned her, actually, is the real thing that's going on here.
What?
They banned you from coming.
Yeah, you shut your mouth. No, they didn't. Sadly,
okay.
Just... Yeah, now I'm on tilt.
Sorry, they didn't. Just keep going. You're fine.
So I will not be in San Diego. However, I've had a lot of requests for this. So since Super Geeked Up will not be on at 10 o'clock next week, on my fan page you can tune in, and I'm going to be having a live chat where you can ask me any questions that you want. I've had a lot of requests for live Q&As, so you can either go on Twitter and tag me in your questions, and I will answer them next Wednesday at 10 o'clock on my fan page, and I will put the link on Twitter, and Jeff will put it on Super Geeked Up because he's awesome and great.
No, I won't.
So you guys can ask me questions, and it'll be live. So if you are familiar with Facebook and live video, you can comment, and I will see all of your comments right there live. So it'll be great. 10 o'clock next week. You can come hang out with me. Everyone knows I'm a hoot. So you'll never know what's going to come out of my mouth.
Yeah, ask her really ridiculous questions, folks.
Yes, let's just really drive it home next week.
All right, so that's what you can do next week at 10 Eastern. 2 weeks from now,
like I said, you can tweet me in questions this week as well, so that I will answer as well.
At JordanXXNoel is where you can find her. 2 weeks from now, we'll be back doing our normal show. However, folks, remember, we're going back to our original time of 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific after Comic-Con, so that's when we'll be doing it after that. Remember, on Monday nights, we do our Dungeons & Dragons live stream, which is 8 p.m. Eastern, except not this Monday because of San Diego Comic-Con. So everything's off next week except Jordan's super cool thing.
Yeah!
But then we'll be back to normal after that, 2 weeks from now. And if you're at Comic-Con San Diego, please come out. We'd love to see you at Super Geeked Up, and particularly we got really awesome prizes. Like I almost got more prizes than I know what to do with. So you got a good chance of winning your prize. And we are doing a web series panel, D&D panel. You can get all that information either at Comic-Con site, comic-con.org, or supergeekedup.com. And that's pretty much it. So huge thanks to JM and Ron. Thank you guys so much for being here.
You're very welcome. It was a lot of fun.
No problem. It was a pleasure.
So once again, please check them out. Go read all their books. Spend all your money on their stuff. And yeah, thanks guys. And go visit Ron. Actually, we're going to Comic-Con too at the Ominous Press booth.
Yeah, we'll be at. Good question. What booth?
Just make up a number.
There are so many booths. I don't know which one.
That's all right.
Yeah.
They can look it up in the program.
It's actually pinned to my Twitter feed. So it's let's see, booth 4018.
Right.
Will be Ominous Press, and I will be.
4018.
If I'm in the building, I will be there. If I'm not there, I will not be in the building.
Okay. Now I'm gonna try to figure out like what you're doing.
I'll be thinking about that for a while.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys if you're watching live. We really appreciate it. We appreciate all your tweets. Thank you for watching in post as well or listening to the podcast. All that is awesome. Please subscribe to us on YouTube if you haven't. If you're watching for the first time, that really helps us out a lot. It's youtube.com/supergeekedup. You can follow us at supergeekedup and Jordan XX Noel. Yeah. So like I said, we'll be back in 2 weeks. Jordan will be doing her thing next week though. So I don't know. I figure the whole world's gonna probably blow up by the time I get back from what she does, but we'll see. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. We really appreciate it. We will. Jordan will see you next week, and I'll see you in a couple weeks. Stay geeky,
Wednesday
everybody.
night, 10 o'clock. Stay geeky.
Bye.